What's up, High Horses? Happy end of the freaking year. I know it's been a heck of a doozy, and that's what we're going to talk about today. We're very excited coming at you today, closing out 2023, setting the sights on a great 2024, 2023.
We're excited.
Went through a lot, guys, and
For sure.
For a lot of you guys who may not have been with the company as throughout the entire ride of that, Bennett's going to fill us in on the story for this year.
I got a little recap of 2023. We'll call it the highlights, So we'll have the highlights of 2023 and along with some, thank yous and commemorations to, all of our people out there. So first things first, last year we started off our year 2023 with a resolution of smoke weed every day. High Horse is probably one of the only dispensaries that you can complete that resolution because we're open 24 hours 365 at some of our locations, so that the Las Cruces locations will be 24 hours 365. Our Hobbs and Chaparral location have different hours, but you could still catch us open every single day. So that same year we started off with the free pre-roll for a year with a purchase. So we're starting that over again this year. So make sure that you're one of the first purchasers this year at one of the shops. You can either start at midnight in Las Cruces or at 7 a.m. in Hobbs or Chaparral. But if you're one of the first 42 people that make a purchase, you will win one free pre-roll a day for a year. It is with the purchase. So if you come in, make your pre-roll purchase, you take another pre-roll with you. So that's one thing that we started going. Last year at the beginning of the year, our little shack out in Valley started gaining its traction, started getting some news coverage. It was actually really exciting because it was kind of the first of its own thing here in New Mexico, with it being a drive-through, with it being 24 hours, and it being 365. So we definitely made some waves out in New Mexico early this year with that. We also partnered
and that's our second store.
That was our second store. So at the beginning or at the end of 2022 is when we opened that little shack, but 2023 was the booming for that one. It's when it gained its traction and started coming up, and it became everyone's one-stop shop for a little pre-roll, some edibles, cartridge, you name it. After that, we partnered with some women-owned, women-grown brands, and we came out with a line called Dank Dames. That was for us to honor and get some name and recognition put out there for the women who own cannabis companies, cannabis farms, whatever it may be. We wanted to make sure that the women in cannabis are held up, because this is definitely a male-ran industry, and it's important to make sure we show the love to the ladies. After all, the plants are the ladies, so who else can grow and nurture a plant than a woman?
Yes, exactly. And to add in there, guys, this is a little bit before I jump into the company. We're going to hit entirely the story, but reflections on 2023 are important because, we have come so far. The cannabis industry is such a volatile, uncertain place. The state of New Mexico has been a free, market for since its inception in 2021, right? And really, this whole thing, it took an extravagant effort over multiple years with lots of different people throughout this entire time. And today, we want to celebrate that.
For sure. And just shout out the people that we've worked with all throughout the year. So along with the Dank Dames line, we first had Farm Flourish with us. We had Mesquite Acres, and then we also worked with 1010. So shout out to all of these companies. Thank you guys for, being part of that line and representing women-owned, women-grown brands, because it's important out here. After that, every month at the beginning of the month, or starting at the beginning of the year, we had monthly block parties in Chaparral. Those got pretty fun. We had celebrity bud tenders with some of those. We had some giveaways at some of those. Crystal Poppin was one of our celebrity bud tenders for that. So if you came out to that, you definitely got a show, because there was performances. She performed. She was the bud tender. It was so much fun. And to anyone who was our vendors out there, thank you guys so much for joining us. It was so much fun. We definitely made some memories, and definitely, reach out if we ever have more block parties.
Super unique though, celebrity bud tenders. I mean, you guys, granted, I don't know if we're going to discuss the other celebrity
Yeah.
bartenders
So
that came
last
along.
year
But
we had Afro Man as a celebrity bartender, and that was our High Horse's first ever celebrity bartender. After that was Miss Crystal Poppin, and then we also had Mr. Capone. When Mr. Capone was in town for his concert, we had him as a celebrity bartender. But I think I have him. He happened in September, I think.
and this is, I mean,
Or
who does
July.
like
So yeah, so
what
we
a
definitely have.
crazy thing there for sure.
We've had a few different little things, and we try and be different. That's our slogan, right? Determined to write history and not read about it. So be sure to catch another celebrity bartender, and let's find out who the next one might be. Another thing that we did almost every month was the Fine Arts Flea Market here in Las Cruces, the first Friday of every month. You could catch High Horse out there. You could find the booth, catch the bikini bartenders out there. Definitely, you must have seen us out there if you attend often. Like I mentioned, we had a lot of news coverage this past year, like especially for the being 24 hours, our advocacy with our state officials. We have a lot of things that we have worked at, and the news has definitely picked that up. But being 24 hours and a drive-through location was definitely one of the main things that we were getting interviewed for. So it was actually pretty fun. So in January, we got awarded ZAHQ's gaming industry, their top sponsor. Along with that, we volunteered with them at the rescue mission in El Paso to donate toiletries and food to the veterans. So that was some volunteer work that High Horse was part of, and with a small local group from Chaparral. So at the moment in January, we were still trying to make sure we had a big reach out in El Paso. That was something we were really striving for. So, what better way than to help out our veterans out in El Paso?
For real. And I mean, something I remember from this time, from the outside looking in, just being aware of who High Horse was kind of, and not necessarily exactly like, knowing, but High Horse was everywhere, like wherever you look, left and right. And I mean, that standard was, I mean, intense,
sure
and
of
it was powerful, and it was good. Like, think about where you end up today. All of a sudden, 4 stores later.
Yeah.
And
so yeah, you'll see the evolution of how everything has grown to be where it is now. Because in year 2023, that's when we got store number 2 going and up and running, up to its full potential. That's when we got store number 3 open, which is the one that we're currently in. And then we also got store number 4 open. So it's been a crazy 2023 year. Let's see, what else did we do? So that was in January. In February, we hosted a dinner for a local 4th grade teacher who is currently battling cancer. Her name is Cynthia, and it was a dinner in hopes of raising money for her breast reconstructive surgery. So, High Horse put together a basket full of product for people to raffle off and donate money to in order to win the basket. So it was actually pretty cool. And then we also donated Miss Cynthia a basket, like a self-care basket with cannabis products as well for herself. So it was actually pretty fun and a really good moment for the community for us to just give back. It fell into our laps at a random moment, and we jumped onto it really quick. And I'm glad we did, because we also made some pretty good connections along with that. So, and I became a pretty good friend of Cynthia, so it's pretty cool. Let's see. In March, we had the SE nominations and awards. That one was actually pretty fun. I was nominated for Best Budtender. At the time, I was no longer a budtender. I was actually a manager. But a lot of my people that I had budtended the year prior had been nominating me, and it was actually pretty cool to see. We were also nominated for Best Dispensary in the Southeast Quadrant, and nominated for Best Customer Service. We actually took home the trophy for the Best Customer Service and the Best Dispensary in the Southeast Quadrant. And I love to rep those very proudly, because I was managing that shop at that moment. And, when we got nominated for these awards, we only had one location. So by the time March rolled around, we already had our second location going, and it was actually a really fun experience to see that, you know, High Horse being only a year into the industry, we were already nominated for, you know, awards, and it was pretty cool.
And you had, I mean, all with a lot of hard work that put into that. Think about how many cannabis companies are existing right now, guys, that popped up between the last 2 years. Everybody wants a little bit of the piece, but getting it is a lot harder to
For
do.
sure, it's easier said. I mean, it's easier said than done, but if you put your mind to it, you can get it done. Let's see. We had so that was March. We had the SC nominations. So in April, obviously April is a very busy month in the cannabis industry. So we had lots of events, one being Queen Bee's 5th year anniversary. Out there, if you might see her 5th year anniversary jerseys, you'll see that High Horse is on the sleeve somewhere. I think we're on the sleeve or somewhere in the back, but it was a collaboration. We made sure she had some pretty cool little designed jerseys. At that time, we were working really closely with the guy that made the jerseys. So, we got them into connections. And, Queen Bee is an awesome connection to have always. So shout out Queen Bee. We also had the Kaleidoscope Art Market out in Chaparral. That is a huge market that happens in El Paso often, and it's very much 420 friendly. It's a 420 based, and it's wonderful to see that it's an El Paso based market. So we decided to reach out to them and see if we could host it outside of the dispensary. One, that way so people could consume a little bit more freely and be safe rather than consuming in Texas. And two, get a little bit more traction from our Texas residents, let them know that High Horse is out there and near them, out in Chaparral. So we made some really good connections, and a huge market came out for that night. It was really, really one of our biggest block parties that we had out there. So then after that, we had our Sun News nominations and our awards. High Horse won quite a few for those, and that's our local Sun News here in Las Cruces. I think we got Best Boss. I think Ruben got Best Boss for that. We got Best Dispensary, and I think one more. I think Best Medical Dispensary. I'm not too sure about that, to be honest. But let's see. Okay, and then location number 3, which is the one we're currently in, the main location was finally open in late May, early June. We had the debut of our bikini bud tenders in June. So after that, any events that we had with Amador or the city, like Aggie Tailgates or the Pizza Fest or Beer Fest, Taco Tequila Fest, all of those, our bikini bud tenders were out there. So, we definitely made a lot of very different calls, different choices, being drive-through, having bikini bud tenders, doing volunteer work, doing advocacy work, celebrity bud tenders. We have a array of different things that we do here at High Horse.
And just to interject, those 2023 Las Cruces Sun News Awards, Best Employee, Best Boss, Best Place to Work, and Best Cannabis Dispensary.
Sheesh. I knew we had
loaded.
3. Yeah, so we have
trophies.
We have quite a big stack of awards that we have accumulated over the year.
Big shoes to fill next year, though.
For sure. 2024. That's going to be High Horse's year 2, and let's see what that brings for us. But Cancer was kind of debuted around late May, early June as well. So that's kind of when we got to meet each other, when the High Horse Cross, Dr. Joaquin Acosta became, and Trichome Alliance kind of came about. So we had our little podcast with Colt, myself, and Joaquin. We're about to, screen share a little bit of that. And that's where it kind of all started for me too. That was my first ever podcast. And I was so nervous, but after I left such on a high, because, I love speaking about what I'm passionate about.
It was good stuff. This was back in the day when I was with Mesilla Valley Pharmacy. I'm no longer with them either. And so, really fully realizing the dream, connecting with High Horse in July was a very pivotal moment in my personal career and my dreams and following what I need to do in life. So, a big connecting moment. This Trichome Alliance butt cancer case study that we came together kind of, manifesting through Colton Bennett's pain, literally Bennett losing her mother to cancer and the side effects, that she was dealing with this entire time from the medication and the disease, were terrible. And, they lived through it all. Colt, her late husband, had taken care of her throughout all of that. Bennett was there the entire way and, making a difference in terms of people's lives and quality of life, especially when it comes to cancer, is where the idea really all seeded itself. And so, it blossomed into the Trichome Alliance starting June as I split off with Mesilla Valley. And from there, we manifested the buck cancer case study. We wanted to buck cancer. We were looking at the Tough Enough to Wear Pink cause. That was really, a big thing around here. It was really, great marketing, so on and so forth.
Sure.
So we wanted to piggyback off of something that had kind of died in and of itself in our local area, turn into buck cancer. That fits our High Horse Cannabis Company brand very well. And so we set up a case study. It's an ongoing clinical trial where anybody who has cancer, above the age of 18 consenting themselves can thus enter and use 60 grams of RSO over a 90-day period in a protocol that will track you every 2 weeks, meet with you. High Horse is going to be dispensing that at 1 cent per gram. This is like $36, $37 cheaper than, the cash value of that. And 60 grams of that, right? If you're doing $40 times 60, you're spending almost $2,400 on therapy.
Yeah.
So when you really think of that therapy, for people to jump into the clinical trial, you can do that, get $2,400 worth of therapy for 24 cents. I mean, we set something up pretty cool. Yeah. So it's existing.
If you know anyone who would be interested in the case study, it's still open. It's still ongoing. We did not fill up the 42 slots. So there's still room for that. Definitely, if you know of anyone, we don't have to have them be New Mexico residents, correct?
No, they don't. But I mean, if you're from somewhere else, we cannot mail things out of the state.
Mm-hmm.
We cannot transport them.
So you would have to physically attend a High Horse location to pick up your medication. And yeah, so definitely if you know anyone, let them know that High Horse has this program going on. They would be seeing an actual doctor with the case study and, being checked up on every 2 weeks to see the progression of anything or just side effects.
Yep. And the point of it, I mean, is to give a neutral face to, actually trying to make a difference. And again, where High Horse is a for-profit company and, we've got to operate in a very competitive industry, the Trichome Alliance was our way to be able to take a step back away from that and, focus our energy and intent on actually, the healing properties of the plant and making a difference where a plant that was stigmatized for over 100 years, could actually get a little bit more face value on the research and the use cases there that we could create for it. We've got like 3 or 4 people overall in the trial, I think, at this point. And again, loss to follow-up is a thing. That's why this trial is opened up to a 5-10 year window at this point. You know what I mean? Like, it has to be a bigger horizon than something that we can make happen in one foul swoop. So we're still going to be recruiting actively cancer patients, for until we don't.
Please let someone know.
That'll
Spread
be a big part of who we are, what we're doing. Going into 2024, cannabis as a medicine is big thing, that a big theme for our company, a big, virtue there and value for our company going into the year that worked very well for us in 2023, obviously, and we're going to continue to push into that as well. So,
and it would be a huge breakthrough for cannabis, but a even bigger breakthrough for medicine. So, help us make that, come to life, and that way so we can get this case study up and, get maybe even peer reviewed by other places. And we could start a huge wave. And this is where we say that we are determined to write the history and not read about it. So that help us make that move forward. We need more cancer patients. We know that there's cancer patients out there that would like to try, natural remedies. So just send them our way and we will cover. If I have to cover the 42 cents out of my pocket, I will. I do not mind at all. But it's the law that we cannot give free products, so we do have to charge a cent per of the gram. But please let us help you. Please be part of our case study so we can make some bigger change in the cannabis industry and in just for medicine overall. So definitely tune in for that. So that's bud cancer, and that's how this kind of came about. In July, we had our first ever bud tender training that was hosted by the Trichome Alliance. So it was definitely ran mostly by Dr. Joaquin Acosta. So that's kind of where a lot of this, also the waves began.
Yep.
We started training people. I wasn't part of that training at the time. I was still a manager. So it progressed over that time. So in July, that's when we did that. We had it here at the Amador. So we had it for any existing or wanting to be bud tenders, just so they could get their foot into the industry, which luckily most of our bud tenders here at High Horse did attend that, which was pretty amazing to see. But if we were to ever host something like this again in the future, I would love to see more of the outside community, of the outside bud tenders, or even just people who would like to become. I have tons of DMs. Oh, get me into the industry, or how do I get into the industry? If I want a dispensary job, what do I do? Just educate yourself. As a manager, as a hiring manager before, that's all I look for, is someone who's educated and willing to continue learning and continue to be educated. So
and that's who we are, and that's a part of our
why we do
culture.
this.
So yeah, exactly. Maybe some other companies aren't going to value that in a person, but we do. We're looking for that.
Rather than gatekeeping all of our knowledge and ensuring that it stays solely with our bud tenders, we put it out on a platform so it can be reached out to more than just our bud tenders. It could be for the future bud tender, or someone who's just cannabis curious. I've actually had my family express that they watched the podcast and they've learned over the holiday. They told me they have watched the podcast and learned so much. So that was actually really fun to see, because my family, it was honestly one of the most cannabis, like against cannabis. Like, it's bad. It's not no. But it's fun to see that my cousins are having that conversation with their parents because of what I put out, and we've come a long way. So let's get through the rest of the year. In July, we also had the neon paint party out in Wet and Wild. We were a huge sponsor for that, and we were well known that day. We had merch being sold. Almost every other person in the crowd was wearing t-shirts, shorts, you name it. High Horse was all over that place that day, and so many people took home High Horse merch that day. So it was pretty fun. And after that, we found that there was a huge wave of college kids that were all about High Horse. So after that, we began doing the Aggie tailgates, and we did the poor student special. So we've tried to tailor to our demographic and the people who are coming out this way. In July, we also debuted the free delivery here from Maine. So that's still going on. As long as your order is over $100, you get free delivery. After that, if it's under $100, it's just a small fee, but it's still ongoing. So order from the comfort of your own home. If you're in Las Cruces, there is delivery limitation. So just head up to the online order system and see if your area qualifies. We had Mr. Capone as our guest bud tender in July as well. So we already talked about that. He visited Chaparral. He visited here at Maine. And then we were his sponsor sort of for the event here in Las Cruces. So it was pretty fun. He was really well known for High Horse. I think he gave us our own sign. I don't remember how it was, but something like H's, or I don't know. He said, throw your H's up. We had the Bud Cancer Gala in September. We had the Aggie Invasion Foam Party in August. We had Pizza Fest in October, which High Horse was the host.
Judges, right? And judges.
Yeah, we had the Pizza Fest in October. We were the host and the judge for the pizza eating contest. So if you were part of that, we definitely have lots of pictures of you eating pizza. And in September, we started this podcast. So it's been since September that we started episode 1. And crazy to see that, this is last episode. This is the end of episode 1. Next week, we will start episode 2. I mean, no, season 2. So season 1 is coming to an end. For November, we started in October. Our Hobbs location finally opened. So 4th location finally opened in October. And, our coat drive and our food drive started in November, and that's still currently going on. You can bring in a coat, take a free pre-roll, a penny pre-roll, or you can bring in 5 cans of food. Make sure they're not expired, please, because we've had that happen. Bring in some 5 canned food items and take a free pre-roll as well. So that overall is our year in review. We've had a huge year. And before we finish off our recap, I just want to give a few shout outs to the people who, highly contributed to the company this year. So I want to give a huge shout out to Colt, a huge shout out to John, John and Martin. Those were our IT. A huge shout out to Nicole, a huge shout out to Tracy, a huge shout out to Mariah, and a huge shout out to Scott, David, and Josh. Huge shout out to you guys for our grower facilities. So we definitely wouldn't be the same without you guys in the company. So
yes, and
your impact or your contributions made a huge impact into High Horse. So thank you so much.
100%. As someone who left a place that you want to see grow in its own various ways, I want to thank you guys for everything that you left for us in every way. And I know for whatever some of those relationships may in a short moment have felt all types of ways, I just want you guys to know that your work did not go unappreciated, and it did not go into a negative energy pool. It's all going to continue to add that value out there.
Who we are now. It's
So
been the history. Up. You were part of the history of High Horse, especially for 2023. Much love. Love you guys.
Something to be proud of. Good job, everybody. It takes a village.
It does. All right, now on to our topic today, which is commonly asked, commonly talked about. Do you drive while you're high?
Well, I guess that's yes, exactly. Do you drive while you're high? And do you smoke while you're driving? Are you planning on perhaps doing this for New Year's, right? Is this something to really discuss? I think it's worth discussing. I actually, I used to be that guy that would be definitely taking my cannabis with me on the road. And, I've gotten better about that over the years. Just trying to minimize the risk. But again, still, there's situations where a pen could be a very easy sneakable thing, right? And this is just the reality of it. This is not encouraging you to do one way or another.
It's your obviously most discreet option.
We suggest abiding the laws and not smoking and driving, right? And not being intoxicated and driving in any regard. But this is something that we're just talking about for today's purpose of this podcast. So again, we are not liable for anything that is somehow acted upon by any of these observations that we're having here, and not any anything else.
This is just discussion to see what is the norm. What's the norm? It doesn't mean it's acceptable, or it doesn't mean it should be done, but what is the norm?
The norm, exactly, guys. And some people that may live out of their cars may end up consuming out of their cars, but are you doing it responsibly, right? Like, you don't want to if you get pulled over and you're going to be smelling like a skunk in that car, you are obviously already liable for all of that. And
probable cause for search. The smell alone is probable cause for search. I know that for sure in Texas. So if you're a Texas resident, be sure to be smart about that. Your car really should not have that smell, because at any given moment for any type of traffic stop or anything like that, that smell alone is probable cause. So be sure. And for New Mexico, I think it's just, being under the influence is what gets you in trouble. The smell not necessarily will fall under probable cause in New Mexico, but it will have the officer question you about when the last time you consumed was, and such and so forth, which none of that should be a conversation that you and a police officer should have. It's a little uncomfy. But
agreed. And so, people are going to be out partying, gathering for New Year's. Totally fair. Out shopping our stores. We got our first 42, deal that we've got coming out. You
at
guys
midnight,
starting that at midnight. We already know. And again, it's going to be, everybody wants to celebrate, have a great time. But again, smoking out the car, hotboxing on a holiday where you're going to have cops all over the place, checkpoints all over the place.
And they're looking for alcohol. They're looking for alcohol-impaired drivers, exactly, in all reality. But what's to say that you forget to use your blinker? What's to say you just come across the checkpoint? You want to have your ducks in a row to not get in trouble.
Yeah, what's to say the cop doesn't see your car, looking like it's full of smoke, right? And just whatever that could be, even though if it's a great time.
What if he can't even see you? That's a tinted window.
So consuming at home, being very careful about what you're taking with you on the road. And, obviously that whole entire situation is going to be something that we want to relay to our patients, our customers, and our employees. Stay out of trouble, guys. I mean, nothing good happens after midnight. You hear that over and over again. And, I'm now an old man with a newborn, and I can say these things, but
the dad,
I get
it.
So exactly, we want to minimize some of that risk for our customers. It only looks bad on the cannabis industry, where cannabis, creates these scenarios of, if it's your probable cause and all of a sudden you're drunk and all these other things, right? I mean, it's not cannabis's fault, but cannabis gets lumped in as being a bad, contributor to that notion. And so
exactly, we want our community to contribute to the positive notion of it. We want to destigmatize cannabis. So we're going to preach responsibility and, medicate properly at all times. Be smart.
And exactly, I mean, think about, yeah, exactly. Just be smart. It can probably wait. It can probably wait than doing something silly while you're driving, and out of the guy that's done it so many times, I am talking to the choir, but I try to get a little better about it. And, we are talking about this because it's true. And we know you guys are,
and it
thinking
is
the
true.
same thing.
There's about, I believe there's a study that was recently ran that out of 4,000 stoners were asked to fill out a survey. For about 4,000 stoners filled out a survey. 60% of them had stated that they consume while they're driving, or they consume before they drive. So that's more than half of our stoner population, you know what I mean? So that's a huge percentage. So all of us really do it. So, and with that being said, there's going to be a lot of I guess a lot of what's the word, conversation where people are very against it, and they're going to tell you that there's fatalities involved. We can look at our Department of Transportation, what they recommend for cannabis, and it's always going to be in a negative light. But in all reality, if you look at statistics, from what I've found in other legalized states, compared to statistics and fatalities, I did not find any correlation. So in Colorado, drivers in the last couple of years, I'm going to state off what the percentage was of the amount of people who used 1 to 2 hours after consuming cannabis. So in 2016, 20.1% reported using cannabis after using cannabis while driving, or after they begin to drive. In 2017, 19.7% reported using cannabis. In 2018, this was the huge spike. There was 22.3% of people who had used cannabis. 2019, it started to decrease at 18%. And then in 2020, it actually decreased a lot larger than when the study began, and it was at 17.6%. So 17.6% of users reported using cannabis using cannabis while driving after using cannabis. I keep saying that backwards. But so as we notice, as throughout the years, there was a decrease. There was a spike in 2018 of the users who drove after using cannabis. But when we look at the fatality crashes in the same study, so this is a study where the driver tested positive for at least 5 nanograms of THC, or Delta 8 in the toxicologist test. So in 2062, 52 fatalities were reported. In 2017, there was 35 fatalities reported. In 2018, there was 42. In 2019, there was 59 fatalities reported, and in 2020 there was 48 fatalities reported. So according to the years that the spikes of the cannabis users while driving, it doesn't correlate a lot with the amount of fatalities. The spike in fatalities was in 2019, and the amount of users in that year was only 18% of cannabis users were driving after consuming cannabis. So, and the year that there was the most consumers while driving that drove after using cannabis, that was 2018, there was only 42 fatalities. So that was actually one of the lowest numbers on this, other than 35 in 2017. So the numbers on this study don't really correlate. So in all reality, I don't think fatalities and cannabis correlate. It could be the cause of, some little fender benders and accidents. But in all reality, one thing that we have to think about is cannabis is one of the most widely used illicit drugs in America. 1 out of 2 Americans have tried it at least once.
Right.
And, 40 something percent of the population, about 46% of the population is who consumes cannabis more regularly. So out of all those people, if you're a daily consumer, you're going to have cannabis in your system a lot longer. Even if you're a spaced out consumer, the cannabis is still going to be found in your blood hours or a couple of days after. So when it comes to being tested, cannabis is one of the most detectable illicit drugs in toxicological tests.
Yep. Take home point for sure.
So it's going to obviously be found in your body days after you consume. So I could consume 3 days ago, not consume for any days, get in a car accident, and they could still find THC in my system because it's one of the most longer residing substances that stays in your body because it's lipophilic. It loves fats, so it's going to stay in our body a lot longer. So overall, I don't think the studies that follow with, fatalities correlating with cannabis, I don't see them being too accurate because THC resides in our body for a long time. So right there, that was just a little research that I had done.
No, I think that's a great study review there. I mean, if you really, I guess, and these are kind of just dumbing it down. And so, if cannabis is going to make somebody, maybe if they pass their ceiling dose, paranoid or something like that, they're probably going to be rather cautious and not,
I've been that person. I think one of my very first times that I consumed while a teenager, and my friends couldn't drive anymore. I was one of the more like, how do you say it? I wasn't the naive consumer. They were. So my friend drove us to a spot to smoke, and he couldn't drive us back. So I was the one that was driving, and because it wasn't my car, because I knew I was, in a different head state, I was driving so slow, and I was waiting for stop signs to turn green. So in all reality, I can attest that driving while past my ceiling dose has really only made me more of a anxious driver, like in the sense where I'm super aware of what I am doing, super cautious of what I am what I'm about to do.
And so I think we don't understand how to make those markers and measurements very well, and to sit there and perhaps incarcerate someone because they might have it in their system when it could have been in there for however long period of time, and they might not even be psychoactively inebriated.
Yeah.
And if they are psychoactively inebriated, does that actually mean that's contributing to a driving accident? I don't know.
Because accidents also happen, what I see is in these fatality crashes, they didn't state how many of these individuals were at fault. You know what I mean? For the crash. There could be a fatality in the crash, and someone could have been texting and driving, and the person who caused the fatality was the person who was texting and driving, but the other person had cannabis in their system.
And exactly. And what else was in their system?
What else was exactly? So other illicit drugs come out of your system so much faster. And there's also reports of people driving on stronger illicit drugs. So but because they don't last in your system, there's not many reports on it. We don't have many studies and many findings on people, per se being on some heavier stuff.
And so, opinion is my own, but cannabis to some degree is a fall drug. It's taking a lot of the fall for a lot of these, driving issues and some of these other issues that we've obviously stigmatized over 100 plus years. But, this is kind of a classic example of this. This isn't saying people go smoke and drive and good luck with all your things. This is just saying be extra careful about what you're doing.
Because the law is law, but we're letting you know some facts.
Yeah, we're just trying to talk some of that real with everybody there because
that was
we understand
advocate style.
Yeah, exactly. The reality of what's happening out there on New Year's, guys. So be extra careful. The cops are going to be zooming around, and
sure.
Let's not set ourselves up for anything.
Exactly. You don't want to be involved in an accident where someone was consuming alcohol, and you're at fault because you have cannabis with you, or you have this, your car smells like cannabis. So let's just be smart. We know that a lot of people out on New Year's are not being smart, so we can take our own precautions for that.
And so
I think that wraps us
today,
up.
That's 2023 in a nutshell.
And season 1. I keep saying episode 1.
So next year, guys, 2024, next chapter for High Horse. We start this up after the new year. Hope everybody has a good New Year celebration. Go line up. First 42 at the door and first 420 to shop at all our locations. Go get in that raffle. We're excited.
So, just to break it down one more time. Each location, so Main and Valley in Las Cruces, you can start shopping at midnight. As long as you're one of the first 42 people to make a purchase, you are part of the free pre-roll for a year. And then for clarification, that free pre-roll is with a purchase. Like we mentioned earlier, we cannot give product out for free. So you do have to purchase another product. So like another pre-roll, if you come in and buy your 8th, you get your free pre-roll with you. So for free. After that, our Hobbs or Chaparral location will be starting at 7 a.m. Make sure you're one of the first 42 there. And if you're any of the first 420 purchasers at any of the shops, you will be entered to become the 43rd person part of the 42. So there will be also one extra lucky winner after the fact of the first 42. So hopefully that gives you guys the breakdown, and make sure you get your purchases in on January 1st.
Yes, and that's a hell of a breakdown. So, show up to High Horse on January 1st. You're going to be in for all kinds of good stuff. If you show up early, you're going to be in really good shape. So,
all year long.